We're on.
We're on. Well, a warm welcome to you all. I'm JJ. I'm a life coach. I eat mostly meat. And I just want to say before we get started that if you are experiencing any of the wildfires, you probably aren't on here right now, but we're sending our best to you out in California. I have a very close friend of mine who is a little surrounded on all sides. She's safe,
Concerning.
but I talked to her yesterday, and it's a crazy situation. So our thoughts are with you all in the fires.
Yeah, and if you're not, please enjoy us talking about carnivore today.
Yes.
I'm Eric. I'm a novelist, and I eat mostly meat. And as the clickbait title says, 800 days carnivore.
Yes.
It's actually over that now.
We're a little more than 800. Yeah.
We started in October of 2022, and we've had extraordinary results and continue to have them.
We do. Yes.
I think that JJ is probably a little bit ahead of me in some of the healing, but to be fair, my damage was probably very, very bad at a mitochondrial level. So it's taking a little bit of time for all of the healing that's possible. But I've had my IBS go away, huge quality of life improvement, and my acid reflux, which plagued me every single night.
Yes.
That went away actually very quickly. And I've lost well over 30 pounds. I weighed in this morning. I was 173. I've been just kind of at 173. At my heaviest, I was 206. And the new scale that we got, the Withings or Wythings, I don't know how it's pronounced. It calculates my vascular age. Have you seen it do that?
I have.
And according to it and its magic algorithm, my vascular age is 45.
Oh, nice.
And I am 54.
Nice.
So I'll take that as a W, even though I think that their algorithm's probably not worth anything. So you've had many benefits from carnivore.
I have. I had literally decades of issues with inflammation and my hormonal imbalances that caused me to have great amounts of fatigue, brain fog. I had brain fog, fatigue.
You have it back.
I do actually. Periods of depression. It was not good. So after 35 years of struggling with all that and doing everything I could to try to live a nice, vital life, I found carnivore, and it has changed my life. Now, I will say, you joked, you're suffering now. I actually am. Today, I'm a little off, and I don't know why. It's a sort of a low energy, a little off day. And it just reminds me that I maybe have this type of day once or twice a month now, where it used to be my norm.
Right.
Yeah. It used to be my norm.
And it's really not that bad because you've done a bunch of stuff today. It wasn't like you couldn't get anything done.
No, I had periods. I had one of those decades of the 35 years, I was taking 2 naps a day and still sleeping like 10, 11 hours a night. So
that's crazy.
That was the worst. You were working out of the home at that time, so you didn't know the extent of it. And I didn't want you to tell you the truth. I pretty much hid it. So, yeah.
So you had to go gluten-free many, many years ago.
Yes.
Which did help.
It did help, but yet it was still a delicate balance. I was always propping myself up with a lot of supplements, and just felt like if I overexerted myself at all, that edge, that cliff was right there. And so I was having to be really careful. And again, great improvements, but not able to just live a joyful, vibrant life.
And then before you started carnivore, you started doing some fasting and eating window stuff.
Yes, I did. And that right away improved my allergies. Like within a week or so. And I was suffering at that time. I had very sensitive skin, which I think was related. That's why I'm bringing it up. My environmental allergies and our dogs, allergies to the dogs, which I'd never had any animal allergies before. That was bothering me. And it manifested itself most with my eyes. They were burning all of the time. I could not wear any makeup. I could not use any cleansers. Ironically, now I don't use a cleanser, but I was literally like using aloe vera to cleanse my face because anything else would cause my eyes to burn that badly. So to have relief after about a week from an eating window was amazing right there. The more I learned, however, from especially Dr. Fung at that time, I read his books, a couple of his, yep. I read a couple of his books and learned about insulin. And so the more I learned about insulin, the more I realized that my fasting was probably not getting my insulin, healing my insulin resistance as quickly as I wanted it to, or getting my insulin down as much as I wanted to. So lo and behold, I love this. You mentioned that we should all be eating more protein.
I did.
And right after that, Dr. Barry's videos started showing up in my algorithm. And wouldn't you know it, he started talking about the proper human diet. And that's when I learned that would help with my insulin resistance even more. So I stacked those two things together. And since then, I've seen amazing results. Like I said, most days I am operating like probably at a level, maybe an 11 out of 10, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. My energy is through the roof. My mood is great. And I'm just really loving life. And I have lost 30 pounds, which is great. I'm on hormone replacement therapy and thyroid. I have hypothyroid. All those medications have come way down in dosage. So I just feel like things are going very well for me.
So you had tried keto in the past.
I had, yes.
For short periods of time, and you did not like it.
It didn't seem sustainable to me, for me at that. I mean, it's funny now after 800 days of carnivore. But it just felt like it felt too hard. It felt too hard to try to get those macros right and make sure that every meal was having enough fat and not too many carbs. And it was just difficult. And I knew that if I was going to change my way of eating ever, I wasn't a huge cereal, S-E-R-I-A-L. I wasn't a huge cereal dieter because I knew that anything I did needed to be easy and sustainable. So keto wasn't for me.
Which is, it seems counterintuitive.
It does.
Because with keto, you do get to have some carbs, which tend to be people's, the thing that's hard to want to give up because it's the most comforting foods.
Yeah.
But when you went carnivore and the results were very apparent very quickly. And I know, I was like, what are you doing? Because you're de-aging in front of my eyes. And literally she appeared to get younger.
Yeah.
And then she confessed.
Because I hadn't told him.
And I had gone carnivore in a way that I typically do things where I just sort of play with it. And so I didn't really mention it. And I think that you were probably making the usual carb sides and I just wasn't eating them. Or I was picking at them a little bit because I was trying to keep the carbs as close to zero as possible.
And at that time, pretty much our side was sweet potatoes almost every night.
That was pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was.
I was, and then I was getting pretty dramatic results pretty quickly, but I didn't stick with it as consistently as she did. And because then we started in October, so we ran into holidays. I tended to go off the wagon more on the holidays, and then I tightened back up into 2023. And then I made some good progress. I mean, really good progress. But one of the things that you noticed after we started the channel, so we would have been well into a year in.
Yeah.
You noticed a big change with cellulite.
I did. We were just chatting about some of the benefits and I was sort of going head to toe, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have cellulite anymore. My cellulite.
Now we don't have pictures.
No.
this wouldn't have been something she would have wanted me to photograph. One. And two, I doubt she'd want to show it on YouTube anyway. But like, what would you assess like the significance of it before it disappeared?
You mean like how bad was it?
How bad was it, do you think?
Okay, so mine wasn't. I've seen some women who have it really, really severely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of a friend's mom, even growing up. I didn't have it that bad, but maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. Yeah, 6 or 7. And in our other house, we had overhead lighting right over the mirror in our bedroom. So, oh boy,
so the shadow would be cast.
It was not great lighting. Not at all. But yeah, so I had it predominantly on my thighs, which is the most common place for it. And yeah, it's gone.
I can attest to it. It's gone.
Yeah.
And that was not something that you were trying to accomplish. You didn't set out to do that.
No, I was trying to lose weight. I'm in my 50s, and my doctor, he was like, yeah, you could lose some weight. And I knew I could. So I set out in this to lose weight, but because I've suffered for so many decades with energy issues and mood issues, I mean, that is the ultimate goal, is to be able to not leave a good life, but lead a good life. And so that has been my number one motivator since my 30s, probably.
Just energy.
It's just energy. Yeah. And mood is wrapped up in that. But yeah.
It's so strange how it changes from pure vanity to just survival. You do hit a point where that just becomes the change because, when I was in my 20s, I wasn't well. I mean, I was eating horribly.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sickly.
No, you were 20 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You were, I think, sort of the average 20-something guy, because most of you were fairly lean still. Most men in their 20s still had the metabolism to keep going in spite of all the Big Macs or whatever.
I was modestly lean and non-muscular.
Yeah.
And but I was able to just do the things that I wanted to.
Yeah.
But that, as the years went on, that slowly faded to and it's strange how it sets in to it becomes more exhausting to do the things you used to do. And there's a sense of maybe you've just lost interest in those things that require the out of the home adventures. But I think that part of it is just it's exhaustion and feeling such low energy that just bringing yourself to go do the things that used to be fun it's like, you can't even be convinced they are fun anymore. Mm-mm. So the quality of life goes down, and you tend to insulate into the home, which is what I've tended to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still have now it's habitual for me.
It's interesting though, because my 30s were my worst decade as far as this type of thing. And then I was doing a little better after giving up gluten, and your 40s were definitely the worst for you. That's when everything seemed to really majorly catch up with you.
Yeah.
So we had like 20 years in this household of just sort of that pattern of just sort of one of us dragging ourselves through the day and just waiting to get into bed at night. Basically,
trying to keep our head above the surface.
Yeah. Treading water.
Yeah. And unfortunately, our daughter grew up in that low energy context.
Yes, she did. She is 20.
Yeah. She's almost 21.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had found carnivore 2 decades earlier, but I didn't.
So many. We can't wallow in the regret, but holy cow. Yeah. I wish we could have parented differently.
Keisha says, yay, just catching alive. Snuggles with my little carnivore kitty under our blankets with the snow coming down. Carnivore for 2 years, March 10th. Love y'all both.
Thank you. Where are you, Keisha? Because I just saw a weather report about some places getting snow, that they're going to get more snow than they've seen in a long time.
Yeah. And I think I just saw that Atlanta was like completely iced over. So,
Yes, yes.
and it's just, we got a dusting of snow today and it's only modestly cold here.
We're here in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and all the weather systems are just going south or east of us.
Yeah. Or you're on fire.
Or you're on fire. Yeah. So
never thought that Wisconsin would be the place to be.
but we kind of are.
Yeah, kind of.
Ugh.
Yes, Osgal, we are live. Tried, I think, carnivore in 2023, ended up in hospital, large gallstone, back to mixed food, gallbladder out February. Tried again, but reflux put me off. Just started again today. Tips for reflux makes it hard for me to stick to it. Well, I have a gallbladder, so I can't translate my experience directly because I was having reflux because of the SAD diet.
Mhm.
And all the carbs and fake foods.
Yes, yes. So I would recommend searching Dr. Berry, and maybe you've done this before, searching Dr. Berry. I don't have experience with this either, yet I know that there are some supplements that can help you. I think maybe, don't take my word, look it up. Maybe some vinegar sometimes can help, apple cider vinegar. And I think maybe even taking some amino acids. But check with the good doctors, Dr. Berry being one. But
if you search his channel for gallbladder, you'll find the answer.
Yeah.
And it may be a ox bile
it might be
or something like that.
Yeah.
But I wish I could tell you what to do. But I do know that many people without gallbladders can do carnivore just fine. But you may be a little, I mean, it takes the body some time because the liver's got to produce the bile you need. And there's an adaptation that may have to happen.
Yeah. And I believe you're right. I think your assumption is your adaptation might take a little longer. And so, yeah, I think.
So don't give up on it.
But do not give up on it, because from what you're saying, I really think, Osgal, that it's going to offer you some great benefits.
Oh, how do you pronounce your name, Ogie Ogie? But hello.
Hi.
Glad to see you here. Keisha says, I'm in Lexington, North Carolina. Other places are getting more than us, but it's snowing and the grass covered. So I'm assuming that's not that usual.
No, I don't think so. I have another friend in North Carolina. So, yeah.
So one of the things that I was able to do after being carnivore for a long time was experiment with tapering off my SSRI. And this was a big decision for not only for me, but for the family, because Eric, not on the SSRI, was not a happy person. I was prescribed it specifically for my anxiety. And the psychiatrist was approaching my particular issue as an OCD, a form of OCD, which was my health anxiety, because I had obsessive compulsive patterns associated with it. And there had been a study that this particular SSRI called Vibrid could be helpful for it. And I actually did some sort of genetic test as well.
Yes.
And I was a good candidate for this particular one. I started it. It took a while to taper onto it, and it helped me tremendously. It didn't get rid of all of the anxieties and all of the intrusive thoughts, but it allowed me to have just this amount of space between the thought and my reaction. And that was 95% of the time enough for me to be able to let it dissolve and not ruin my day or send me spiraling down an anxiety vortex. And so I was happy with it. I wasn't even on a very high dose, but I had been on carnivore, and I was like, I would love to get off of this because I don't know what side effects I might have if I continue to take this for years and decades. So I did a doctor-designed taper, and after I took my last dose, I felt like I was still on it. And that persisted for a good year, almost a year. And then I did start to have some anxiety come back, but never to the level where I thought I needed to go back on the SSRI. And I'm doing more experiments now with higher fat and trying to achieve higher ketosis to see if there's maybe something that I was doing before that I'm not doing now and not because I didn't track anything. I don't know what it is,
Yep.
but I would still say I call this a huge victory because you just don't want to be taking pharmaceuticals that you don't need,
Yeah.
or you're not aware of the side effects. It does not mean that there aren't any, especially when you're dealing with stuff that's working on the brain. In my opinion, don't just quit your SSRIs
No.
helter skelter. That's not what
No.
I'm saying. But I'm saying that carnivore was definitely the step that allowed me to then take the next step. And there's a lot of people, it's anecdotal, who have experienced great benefits to mental health through keto and carnivore. But it seems to be that ketosis and the level of ketosis is a big component of it. And we cite very frequently these books.
Yes.
Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Dr. Georgia Ede. If you or someone else you know has some mental health challenges, depressions, anxiety, and other things, this is a book you have to read. It's not difficult reading, but it will open your eyes to how important your metabolism is to your mental health.
And what I love about, I believe both these books, I actually haven't read Brain Energy. You have.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that it doesn't say become carnivore. It gives you, I know, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, steps you into a more proper human diet, ancestral way of eating, and lets you know what types of foods are the worst for mental health, which are often nuts and grains and seeds. So it's not, you're not giving someone a radical carnivore book.
No, this is not neither of these are carnivore books. They tend to be keto books.
Yes.
And then Brain Energy, it is the same topic from a different angle and from a different psychiatrist's experience, who had people with intractable issues, and through ketosis either was able to dramatically reduce medications or eliminate medications, or go from being dependent on others to being able to get out and into their own homes and be independent in their life. And that is an enormous benefit. So I highly recommend both of these. And that's the end of that. So we did touch on energy before, where you're the Energizer Bunny. And I'm more of the Energizer Bunny with Duracell, unfortunately. And my little symbols stop much earlier in the day than yours do.
Yes.
I hope you get that reference because I'm not going to explain it. That said, my energy is just less consistent.
Yes.
Because I can have days where I'm just like, and I'll tell you, I'm like, I got so much done today. I can't even believe it. And you're like, yeah, that was an average day for me.
I do not say that.
No, you're thinking it though. I can hear you thinking it. But your energy is ridiculous. And so her energy is goals for me. Now, I don't know if I can achieve that. Maybe there's just something fundamental to my genetics that don't allow that, but I don't buy it yet. And I just had a consult with somebody. I may talk about this later, but we were looking at my numbers, my blood numbers. And one of the things that they were seeing, it raised the topic of how long does it take your metabolism to heal? How long does it take insulin resistance and all the inflammation that goes around that to heal? Since I've been doing this for 2 years, shouldn't I be done by now?
Yeah.
Well, maybe if I'd been perfectly consistent for those 2 years and not had a few little discursive periods, not that they were many or prolonged, but maybe that was just enough to delay things. And perhaps if I had a totally different personality and could track and be extremely disciplined about it, but then if I could do that, then maybe I wouldn't have needed carnivore in the first place, because 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been eating what I was eating then. So the energy thing is everything. And you've got it pretty much cracked, and I want more of it. What to see? Tanya says, I find exercise helps with depression, but carnivore definitely helps with your mood. heard it called the carnivore Zen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can definitely tell. In 2024, I started doing some slightly longer fasts. And by longer, I mean like 46 hours, not too long. And I can definitely tell, though, when I'm in a deeper ketosis, I do have more Zen. But most days I'm doing pretty dang good anyway. Exercise. Back when I was in my 30s, I tried to exercise my way out of depression. I tried to exercise my way out of fatigue. And lo and behold, I had adrenal fatigue, didn't know it yet. And so it was just pushing me lower and lower and lower, actually. So I know it can help and that it does help some people. But at that time in my life, it was not what the doctor ordered. And I didn't know it. But now we know going out, even just going for a walk or something is a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just, I think it might've been Rhonda Patrick or maybe Andrew Huberman. They were talking about how glucose and ketones are brain energy.
Mm-hmm.
And, but there's a third, and apparently it's lactate or lactic acid. It's whatever's produced through exercise. It is actually can be used for energy.
Interesting.
And it boosts BDNF, brain derived neurotropic factor. I hope I got that right. It's a mouthful, which can definitely impact cognition, mood, and memory and stuff like that. And so today I had to do a workout because it was on the agenda, and I didn't want to think about it, much less do it. But I did it, and I took the approach of I'm going to ease into it and really warm up the body, like a yoga session, which I don't like doing. But then it feels really great once you're like 30, 40 minutes into yoga, because then your whole body's limber and warm. I didn't do it that long. But I decided it was a leg day I needed to do. And I hate doing these things called Bulgarian split squats. Now, I don't know what Bulgaria has to do with it. Because there's also Turkish get-ups, and there's other kinds of things that are named after different places. And I don't know what the name has to do with anything. But it is one-legged squat. It's like a lunge, but your rear leg is elevated onto like a bench. And then you go down and you come up. But today I decided, instead of doing heavy weights with it, I would do body weight, but I would do very slow reps to keep time under tension high in order to get the lactic acid burn. Like that was my goal, because I wanted to see what it did for my brain and my mood. And I did. I don't even know how many reps I did, because I went to failure. So that meant I could not do another rep. And that was uncomfortable. But I did some other exercises after that. And then I called it done and took my shower and went on with my day. My legs were trembling. I could not believe it, because it was one set to failure, and my legs were just shaking. And but my mood was good after that.
Your mood seems, it's so funny, because your mood seems pretty good today, and I'm the one who's a little off today.
And then I was sitting around because I had to do some buying of tickets for some events we're going to be at. And that kind of lowered my mood, because now I've committed to going to some events. And I was sitting around. But then it was time to have a little snack, because I was quite hungry from my workout. Now, typically I would have breakfast and late lunch, early dinner. But more recently, I've been throwing in a tin of sardines or two. And so I sat down with my sardines and ate those. And I think that burst. Plus, I had some MCT oil afterwards in my salty, because we've now switched mostly to salty. Instead of LMNT for our electrolytes. We're not selling it. And the chocolate salty is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the caramel at first, and now I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I put butter in it to up the fat ratio. And then I put a little MCT in there because that goes straight into the bloodstream and comes ketones to give you that boost.
If you are experimenting with what are electrolytes, if you are using electrolytes, I strongly urge you to try some different types. Like, I was an Element girl all the way. I love the way Element tastes. Their fruit flavors, still my preferred flavors are Element. But I switched to salty just to experiment, and I get no more cramping at all, muscle cramps at all anymore. So I think for me, salty has the right ratios. And again, I do like the chocolate very much. The fruit are fine. They're fine. I'm getting used to them, but I would have never known that. So I urge you to really, if you still do experiment, or if you still do experience muscle cramps and are like, oh, I need more electrolytes, maybe just switch up the electrolyte brand.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's several now.
Yeah.
Element used to be the only game in town, but now
Yeah.
there's tons of them. I do think that the salty has higher potassium than Element. And I have been experimenting with different things because I've had a little restless leg muscle twitches in my lower legs. And I had gotten that way long before carnivore, and then it resolved itself. And then sometimes it would come back and kind of go away. And I always suspect it was some sort of nutritional deficit or a environmental toxin, and I didn't know which. More recently, I was like, well, maybe I'm releasing all the oxalates that I consumed in my kale shake era, but I don't really know. But it does seem like since I've started, I've been doing 2 salties a day. It seems like they're less.
Yeah. I had to do 2 elements.
So it could be potassium.
Yeah. I had to do 2 elements to keep the muscle cramping at bay. And now I sometimes don't have any. I'll go a day without any electrolytes and I'm fine. Or I'll just have one most days, one salty. So again, you could say maybe I've adapted, maybe, but I really think it's the ratio is right for my body.
So we've had great success on carnivore. And if you've followed us for a while, you've heard all of this before. Sorry about that. But we gotta bang the drum because it's such an important thing. And it requires a mindset shift that is not necessarily easy to do, because if you're coming into carnivore and you're thinking of doing an experiment with it, my experience is that people are in a mode of, I don't know what else to do. I've come to the end of all of this list of things that I've been trying in order to resolve a bunch of issues. And finally it's like, well, there's carnivore. And now there's a lot of information about it on YouTube, especially. There's a good community. And there's a lot of testimonial now about the transformative effect it's had for many, many people. So that builds some sense of confidence that there's at least a chance it'll work. But you still have to eat the meals. And you're confronted with this steak on a plate, for instance. And your whole life, you've been told this steak is inflammatory. It's going to cause all kinds of cancers. It's going to clog your arteries. It's going to be harmful to you to eat it hardly at all, much less eating a lot of it forever. And you end up with this thing. You've got this steak, and you're like, everybody says I have to eat the fat that's on that thing, and I'm used to cutting it off. Or how many of us used to peel the skin off of chicken and not eat it because we were trying to go low fat?
Yeah.
That's the only part I want. Or just eating the chicken breast because it's low fat. So that whole mind shift, you can be convinced to try it, and still when you're confronted with the fat on the plate, getting it on the fork and into your mouth can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And dealing with the adaptation. Now, it was Osgal here who was having the issue with the gallbladder and adapting to carnivore, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was having my adaptation phase, I could not be far from the restroom.
No.
Because at any minute I was going to have an involuntary cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted for me for a month.
Yeah.
And it was, I wasn't ever in pain. I would be going about my business and all of a sudden I'd be like, and then I'd have to deal with it. But that took a little while, and there's a lot of theories about it. It could be the gut microbiome has to adjust. It could be adjusting to digesting so much fat. It could be that I was overdoing the element because I was trying to stay hydrated, or all three of those things. I don't know.
But you had a really good mindset around it.
I did.
Because I've heard some people who start having those adaptation symptoms and it becomes evidence that they should not do the diet. And especially if they talk to a health professional who's not aligned with carnivore or keto, that health professional will say, see, this is what happens when you don't have fiber. So, but you had a different mindset.
I did. And it was this. The involuntary cleanses to me was a sign that it's working, that my body is confronting this change in my diet and it is doing what it needs to do in order to adapt to it. And I was forewarned, so I was forearmed and I knew it wouldn't last forever. And so I just took it as good. I don't love it, but good.
Mm-hmm.
And getting the mind around the challenge being a positive rather than a negative is very, very helpful in being able to continue. So if you've gone through the carnivore adaptation, let us know how it went for you, because I think that's one of the filters, and people go into it because they're desperate and then they hit the adaptation effect. It could be keto flu or something. And they just go whoop and bow out real quick.
No, I didn't have a huge adaptation period at all. I didn't really notice anything, although I wasn't 100%. So that might have about once a week or so, once every other week, I would have a salad or something. And so, but when the first time we did keto, I remember getting the worst headache of my life. And I was very prone to headaches back then. This was the gluten days even.
Oh, okay.
So I was prone to headaches all the time. And this was the worst headache of my life. And it lasted, I can't remember exactly, but it was like 2 or 3 hours, almost on the dot. And it I had to be in the room by myself in bed. And then all of a sudden it stopped, which I've never had a headache, just gone. And I think it was keto adaptation.
Could be.
At that time. And I was like, oh, wow. Did my body just flip the switch? I don't know, making this up. But I have never had that bad of a headache again. But I also, whenever I have dipped into low carb, I've never had a lot of adaptation issues after that. I feel like it trained my body, and then my body was like, okay, we can deal with this. Making this all up.
So here you are before and after.
Yeah.
And the after is a little misleading because this was taken this past, I don't know, maybe even summer. So you've had months since then of progress.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think I am about 5 pounds less than this picture. Not that it makes a huge difference, but.
Do you have any idea what your weight was in that blue shirt side?
Probably, let me think a second. Probably close to 160.
And you were
I'm 5'3" and 7 quarters, or 3 and
7 quarters,
3 quarters,
3 quarters,
7 quarters.
So close to 5'4".
About 5'4". I'm about 5'4". If I say 5'4", he rolls his eyes, so that's why.
It's just an in joke with us.
Yes, but I'm about 5'4".
And so you said 160.
Right under 160. Yeah.
right under 160.
Yep.
And you were not fit.
No, because as I mentioned before, I tried in my 30s to exercise out of my depression, out of my fatigue, etc., and had adrenal failures. So as a result of that, I suffered from exercise intolerance too. So not only had I gained this extra weight in my midlife, period coming up, but I also was not extremely fit because if I exercised, I talked about that cliff being right here. And if I exercised much or was too active, I'd just fall over the cliff.
Yeah. I remember you breathing hard a lot when under exertion. And, we were going for walks, long walks, and you were able to do them.
Yeah.
But you did not have days like you have now of activity.
No. No, we've been on a couple cruises and we just fly up and down those steps.
Right. Because if you wait for the elevator, you're waiting forever.
Yeah.
To go up 12 decks. But if you go up the steps and you've been eating carnivore and doing some even modest exercise, you can just do it. If your daughter who hasn't and doesn't, then it's a little bit harder for her.
Yeah.
So we were definitely out climbing our 20-year-old.
Yeah,
we were. Steps.
We were.
But she did not lose her phone in her pants this time, which was very funny.
She did that when she was a young teen. It was funny. Yeah.
Going up the steps. Okay. Yeah. And so here I am, and I've made progress since this because I'm no longer 180. I'm 173. And I don't have my tight shirt on to flex for you. But the photo that on the left there when I was 51 was taken it might have been taken at a Disney park or something like that. And when I look at it, I see the shape of my shoulder and my gut that's a little bit pudgy. Reminds me of my dad when he would get heavy. He kind of had this silhouette. And I was the purse holder while you guys were doing rides. And I don't like going on rides, so I didn't mind doing that. But just looking at this picture and thinking about how I look and feel 2 years later, I just can't even believe the difference. It's just, I can't believe the difference was even possible for me to achieve when how many times in my life had I done keto and lost a bunch of weight?
Yep.
And I worked out a lot. I mean, I used to go to kettlebells 3 times a week and I would do these ridiculously difficult workouts. I never looked like that.
No. And that's what I always say. He would get he yo-yos. He has a history of yo-yoing. So the fact that you've maintained this for this long is incredible anyway. And without a ton of effort.
No, and it's not really about working out super hard.
No.
I've worked out way less.
But you've yo-yoed. So you've gotten down near this weight or around this weight you're at right now before.
Oh, sure.
But you've always gotten a little gaunt looking where my family is like, is he okay? And let me tell you, a little too thin. And let me tell you, nobody's saying that now.
No, I would have been skinny fat. That would have, because I still would have had the visceral fat. And I would have lost a lot of muscle mass during those times. And now I can keep the muscle mass and lose the body fat and the visceral fat. And that results in way better health.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another thing that's not really shown here is a relative normalization of my blood pressure. It was always high in the clinic because I was nervous, but then I would come home and I would test and it would be basically normal, but sometimes just a little bit above normal and sometimes a little bit below, not very consistent. And I was just testing it last week. And once I would set and relax because I'm nervous what it's going to say that makes my blood pressure go up. Once I relax, 117 over 75 or something like that. Pretty nice.
Yeah, very nice. Because I don't remember you getting under very often, under 120 over 80.
That would be pretty rare.
Yeah.
But I was definitely trending towards mildly elevated blood pressure. Now, there are some who will say that 130 over 90 is normal, or even 140 over something is normal. And maybe that's true. I just watched a whole Dr. Boz video where she's like, no, you got to have it below 120 over 80. Anything over one is terrible. And so I don't know. But I'm telling you that it normalized, and that was good.
Yes.
And why does it normalize? Well, I think one is you're getting rid of a whole bunch of inflammation and water retention. And that just increases blood volume by itself.
Yeah.
And getting that out makes a big difference. And blood pressure is a much bigger risk factor.
Look at this.
Than, I don't know if it's on this or not. Is it on this?
Oh, that's right. Oh, it is.
Hypertension.
Yes.
So hypertension is a much bigger risk factor for heart disease than even high triglycerides or high ApoB, or certainly higher than LDL. So if you have elevated blood pressure, you really, really, really want to take care of that immediately, because that's causing the actual mechanical damage to the endothelium that then is resulting in the plaque formation. And obviously, if you're smoking, you got to cut that out. You have to cut that out. That's nonsense. Stop it. And I did it many, many years ago. I was in college. And little known fact, because nobody knows me, I quit mid-cigarette.
Oh, you did.
I like to do things hard mode. But it stuck. I chewed so much bubble gum. I chewed all of the bubble gum in the state of Wisconsin during that period of time. And for years, I would have smoking dreams.
Yes, you did mention that to me.
But you know what I haven't had? I don't have carb dreams.
Really?
Where I eat a whole bunch of cupcakes and cookies and stuff. Never. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Ogie says, I've been carnivore for 5 years.
Wow.
First month was difficult. Loose stools and working out what to eat. Yeah. Yeah. That's why keeping it simple with like something like trying to just do beef, bacon, butter, and eggs as just a rule set, then you don't have to make decisions as much, but you still have to decide which beef to eat. So, Osgal, that's good to know. We have a short cruise next month and was wondering how it will go sticking to carnivore. Yeah. It's a challenge for sure, because all of the bad foods are there in excess amounts. On a cruise, you can either ask for special meals or just order from the menu and only eat what you want. We've tried both ways. And our method is I basically just try to be keto. And I generally start really, really good. And then it just gets a little bit looser towards the end, just because I've eaten all of the things that are available. But I generally will have salads with my steak.
On a cruise.
With my beef, of course, yeah. And that's, of course, got a salad. It's got a balsamic, usually, if I can get it. And but I don't know the quality of the olive oil in the balsamic. Okay, we are going to be going to some carnivore-related events, Jennifer.
Yes. By the way, yeah. Some people.
By the way, my name is Jennifer.
By the way, my name is Jennifer. Some people ask, it is Jennifer Joy. So that's
where the JJ comes from.
Where the JJ comes from. And I've been called JJ since birth. So my dad would call me Jennifer. Pretty much everyone else calls me JJ.
Do not call her Jenny.
But I've never been Jenny.
And part of that's because she had a very close friend named Jenny. So that would have been confusing.
It would have been very weird.
We are going to be tomorrow.
Yes, it's Friday, Saturday.
What is it called?
It is the Healing Humanity Chicago meetup.
And that's going to be in the northern suburbs.
Yes, it is.
At some hotel, I think.
Yes, at the DoubleTree. And I don't know if tickets are still available. It's healinghumanity.com/events.
And Dr. Kiltz is going to be there, and Tony Hampton.
Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Hampton, and I cannot remember who else. Obviously, Carrie from Homestead Howe will be there. But I'm really excited. We've done 2 meetups in the past. This is the first one where we have any doctors there. So I'm really excited about that. So I just interrupted.
No, that's all right.
I'm excited to meet Dr. Kiltz. I've gotten more and more into his mindset as I've gone further in carnivore, and his mindset being just live your life and be happy and don't worry so much about everything. Which I'm a life coach, so that kind of goes along with that too. But Dr. Hampton too, I have been so impressed since he came on the scene with his mission to really bring carnivore, especially, but keto into his community and into the healthcare system. Because he still works for a regular healthcare system. So I just give him all the props.
Yeah, the times I've seen him interviewed, it's always, I was tired of just treating symptoms and throwing medicines at people.
Yeah.
And then seeing them not get better.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you go through all of that medical school, the difficulty of it, the challenge of it, and then you're just kind of treating chronic problems constantly.
Yeah. So yeah, my hope is he can continue in the system to change the system. And I know that can be pretty challenging too.
What is Natalie saying here? Healing Humanity just did a meetup in Phoenix. I didn't hear about it until just a couple of days before and I was away. Oh, social media fail. Well,
that's right.
The problem is I'll get to this one in a minute. The problem is if you were to watch all of Carrie's content, you would do nothing else. So you can't be expected to watch every single second of it.
But that was a pretty big one. There were a lot of people at that one. We could not make it. We were taking our daughter back to college this weekend. So, but I'm glad with all the crazy weather and so forth, it's probably best we weren't traveling. It worked out well.
Yeah. Thanks. I don't want to get cravings. I don't get cravings. It's just whether food is available. Yeah. I will probably enjoy a couple of whiskeys though.
Yep.
Did you know that whiskey is spelled differently depending on where the whiskey is from?
I did not.
So if it's from a country with an E in its name, it's got an E in the whiskey.
Huh.
Yep.
I've seen it spelled without the E, but I thought that was just an old-fashioned way of doing it.
Nope. That's the country of origin of that whiskey did not have an E. And I read this somewhere long ago. I don't drink. I never have. I don't think I've ever... I have no idea what whiskey would taste like. So
I think we had it in Scotland. Maybe you didn't.
I didn't. I wouldn't have had it. But anyway, there's a factoid for you. All right. We are also going to be at
this
COSI
just out. Yes.
In Las Vegas, February 7th through 9th. Just bought tickets today. And we're very excited. This is Dave Feldman's kind of big citizen science conference. And all of the usual suspects will be there doing talks and appearances.
And if I'm remembering, we wanted to go last year, and I believe it hit our daughter's spring break.
Yeah. Right.
So we were not able to. So we're excited to be going this year.
And this is held on the UNLV campus, I believe. So it's not on the strip, which is good, actually, because that's just the chaos. And then
I might like to see a show when we're there, though.
Well, we can do that, but it's not close to where we're going to be. I don't
Right. Right. We'll have to figure that out.
And then in May, we are going to be, yes, Keisha, at Meatstock in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, the 17th and the 18th. And here it is. Just bought tickets to Meatstock.
Hey.
Kim Berry, Nisha is going to be there. Yep. We're going to be there.
Yes.
And excited. It looks like it's going to be great. Looks like a lot of the usual suspects are going to be at that thing. We are not doing the cabin retreat, but we will be at the conference. Let's see. Let's take that down. Carnivore Chans says, hey, Carnivore Chans. JJ, do you have a link that I can share for your life coaching business? I'm sure there's stroke survivors that need your services.
Ooh, interesting. Oh,
I got so excited, I nearly wrecked the mic.
I don't have one available right now, or even like I've been low key on the life coaching the last couple of years, but I still do take clients and do some things. So let me work on that and get you a good link at a later live.
So those are the ones we know about so far and that we're committed to because we paid for tickets.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty big for me.
That is huge for you.
We got 3 events
Yes.
in the same year
Yes.
that I'm going to go to. Now, the first one tomorrow, we're driving down. It's what, an hour?
Yeah.
And an hour back. So I can handle that. We had to do 2 hours up and back to take our daughter back to school last weekend.
And it turned into much more than 2 hours.
It did.
It was funny.
We were 20 minutes on the first leg to head back up to school. And she's like, crap, I forgot my purse and her ID and her money and everything's in it. And so there's no not going back to get it.
No, but then it was just funny. We hit Packers traffic. Our lunch I was like, oh, we never need to make reservations. It took a long time. Like everything was just its own timing. Yeah. And I had to teach a life coaching class that night. So
we made it.
We made it fine, but it was just, it was funny. We were just laughing.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, guess what we have waiting for us?
Oh, where?
Up in the oven.
Oh, you're cooking something.
I did.
What have you made?
2 things. Let me say, this week is not waiting. I'm going to make you wait for a second. I did Bella's soup this week where she just uses ground beef and then she pours in some water and then she pours in some eggs and egg yolks. So I did that and it was delicious. I really liked it. It's the first time I've done it and I will do it again. I then proceeded to dump 2/3 of it on the floor. So the dog also enjoyed it quite a bit as he helped me clean up. It was a big mess everywhere. And then what's waiting for us is another new recipe I've never tried before. I tried Mimi's beef shanks that she cooked for Carrie and Emma and one of his other daughters. I can't remember which one. The recipe's pretty loose though, so we'll see how that one goes.
I think his video about that is best carnivore meal he's ever had or something like that, or ever. So now my expectations are sky high.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tonight.
I probably had beef shanks when I was a kid, but I don't think we've ever purchased beef shanks as adults and made them.
How would you even buy them? They're not just sitting out in the butcher case.
They were.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were. So I grabbed them. Yeah. And they're a reasonably priced meat.
Is there much meat on them?
Yeah, there was. It was, it's about this big and it's got the bone in it. Yeah. So we'll have a little marrow with it because we'll
nice.
Out of the bone.
Well, now that you mention it, I did make a béarnaise.
You did
the other day.
That was one of your goals for the year, right?
My goal was to get good at it. What I made was passable. It was also a slightly novice recipe, but I want to experiment with creating some sauces that are relatively carnivore compliant to put over steaks because beef, I'm always kind of halfway off of eating beef, so right now I'm kind of trending away from favoring it.
Yep.
So that's not a good sign. So I need to zhuzh it with something, but it's a little bit fussy because you have to use egg yolks and not scramble them. So you have to barely kind of heat them up and then you get butter into it. It's like a hollandaise, but you put a little bit of a shallot vinegar reduction for the acid for the sauce. And everything I just said sounds like I know something. I literally have no idea. I went through the steps and it turned out pretty good, but then I put the remainder in the refrigerator, but I didn't strain the shallots and the tarragon out like you're supposed to do. And I just incorporated it into the sauce. And I think it gelled and intensified certain flavors when it was in the refrigerator. And then when I carefully reheated it, the flavor profile was not on point. Did not know about that. Bourbon is a whiskey. Scotch is an Irish whiskey is milder.
Huh?
Yeah, you spelled it right too. Gosh, so off topic now. I did have salmon for breakfast. That's carnivore. It certainly is.
Bring it back around.
Yep, that you brought it. You saved it at the end there. You did sound like a chef, Eric. Yeah, I said a lot of chefy words. I wish that I had the skills to go with them.
It's funny because I get why you want to do this and learn how, because for one thing, once you get good at it, it can be done pretty quickly, I think. But for you, something fussy in the kitchen is not generally what you do.
No, anything that requires measuring, waiting. but you just have to have the motive has to be more than the resistance, right? That's like anything else in life, and the motive is high. And my goal is just to practice it, just to make it every week, and then I will get better at it. And the missing piece to this learning is to taste a good one.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I thought you did taste a good one.
I don't have taste memory.
Or not the Bernays though. You had a hollandaise at my brother's.
Yeah, but I think I have had Bernays at certain restaurants. I'm sure I've had it, but I don't have taste memory.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm doing it. I don't know if what I'm making is as good as it can be. All I know is if it's palatable. So we'll see. What we need is like a chef to come in here and cook it, let me taste it, and then teach me how to do it.
That's true. I just remembered though, I smack you. We have Julia Child's cookbook still. I have not purged it because it's just like,
we just need Julia Child.
Well, yeah. That's going to be a little harder.
It's really hard because even ChatGPT can tell you how to do the steps, and there's a million videos on how to do it, but there's nothing like tasting a correctly done one to sort of set it's like learning how to play guitar without being able to hear anybody play it. It's you need to be able to hear it. So that's a lot of nonsense. So I think it's time to eat that beef shank.
It is time, yes.
So let's sign off, JJ.
Yeah. So we thank you so much for joining us, whether you've been with us live or you're catching the replay. We so appreciate you, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday. Yeah. Tuesday. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.